the kicker is just communication. If you're a new agent, make sure you're communicating, make sure you're being honest with your clients, even if it hurts, even if you're busy, they need to feel like they're your number one priority.
This is Spilling the Real Tea, a podcast by Sold in a Snap.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spilling the Real Tea. I'm your host, Eric Johnson, and today I'm so excited. We have Lauren Mynarcik with us, and she will be talking to us about 5 mistakes that sellers keep making. But before we get into it, I do want to thank today's sponsor, which is Sold in a Snap. Sold in a Snap is Central Texas's premier real estate photography and marketing company, helping agents look incredible, stand out from the competition, and grow their business. They provide photos, tours, video, and marketing, everything that you need to market yourself and your listings with ease. Want to save time, wow your clients, and dominate the market? Visit soldinasnap.com. See how Sold in Snap can elevate your business for your listing today. Well, Lauren, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you today.
Thanks. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to dive into all of these top 5 things that you have for us. But before that, I do want to kind of learn a little bit more about you. Tell us, how did you get into real estate? Where are you from? All those good things.
Yeah. Okay. I'm from Holland, Texas. Grew up in Salado, just right down the road.
Yeah.
Got a husband at home, 3 kids, a 60-acre farm. We were baling hay earlier today, so we're just into all the things. But as far as getting into real estate goes, kind of a random path led me here. I never really thought I'd be in real estate. Funny stories. But I started out, after college, went to college, went to A&M, was an RN for 7 years.
Yeah.
Dad's a home builder. Husband's a firefighter. Like, we are not in the real estate world at this point.
Yeah.
Husband gets his real estate license. I'm like, I'm home with little babies, not nursing anymore. Thinking I could do this, randomly get my real estate license. And it took off, and here we are.
Wow. And what year was that?
2021.
Okay. So relatively recent.
Relatively fresh. Yep.
Okay. So you started to get into real estate. Now, did you want to focus anywhere? Like, did you want to do kind of larger properties? Did you want to do residential, commercial? Did anything kind of draw you?
Starting off, I was super scared of commercial, so I just wanted to do residential things, but really largely also farm and ranch.
Yeah.
We're country people, we're farm and ranch people. We deal with animals. That's just kind of who we are. We live out in the country, and so that's what we were really into at the beginning, in the beginning.
Yeah, and I can imagine if you're going farm and ranch, you're probably really comfortable with having those conversations.
Yep.
Like, hey, I've got this livestock, or I've got, these animals, or like, what do I do with all this? Like, you already have the tools to be able to have a conversation about, like, how do I sell this property, or how do I buy a property?
Yeah, with farm and ranch comes a lot of little niche-y things that, regular residential agents aren't used to, and things about, mineral rights and restrictions and easements and things like that we kind of already had a handle on going into it. So that's been a huge help.
Yeah. Did you find that when you kind of first started getting into the business that you just kind of took off, or was it kind of like finding your footing, seeing how it felt, making a lot of mistakes before you had successes? Like, take me through that a little bit.
I feel like we had no idea. I say I speak for my husband and I both, because we kind of got in at the same time. His business has been slower because he's a full-time firefighter, but mine really, really just took off. The first few months were, I jumped right in with buyers. Yeah. And I started at the beginning of the fall. I closed a few by the end of the year, but once that first full year started, it was really just on the ground running. So, and it was the busy season, right? 2021 after COVID, when you had to put in 10 offers to get a house. So I just got submerged really, really quick. Yeah. So then after the first few deals, it was like off to the races.
Yeah. Take me through, like, we have a lot of, new real estate agents that listen to the podcast. And is there any advice that you might give some of them that maybe they're struggling with getting those first sales or anything like that?
I think just come out being authentic, letting everyone that that you're in real estate and you'd love to help them is one big thing. Husband and I both are from around here. We have I feel like I always say we have a really big network that we've been working on for 30 plus years, right? We didn't know it was going to come back to help us out now. So I think just growing your network, if you haven't already, is huge. We were big on, sending out mailers and stuff from the get-go, touching on our network, every quarter. Social media, obviously, getting yourself out there via video. is really important so people can get to know you. I think those things are really,
Good.
really huge.
Good. Well, thanks. So today we're going to be talking about, reasons that your home isn't selling. And I'm really excited to kind of break down these top 5. And I know you've kind of prepared 5 top things. If you had to, again, go back into this and you're thinking like, I need to make sure this happens. I need to make sure this happens. And I'm assuming that these 5 lessons that you're going to teach us today are probably 5 things that you've encountered that you've had to kind of figure out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So take us through that. So why don't we start from the 5 all the way down to 1?
Okay. Reasons our house is not selling. Number 1, this is at the bottom of my list. So these first 4 in no specific order, right?
Okay.
Saving the big one for the end. But the bottom of my list is uncommunicative agents. This is a spicy one. And again, at the bottom of my list, because we don't see this a lot, but when we do see it, it can be very painful for your listing. Trying to call, trying to get a showing scheduled, trying to, you go to schedule on showing time and the code's not there. You're calling and you're texting days ahead. You can't get a hold of them. You wouldn't think this would happen because we're all working on our phones all day, right? But it happens a lot. And then after so many days of trying to get in touch, trying to get a showing scheduled, your buyer just says, forget it. They must not want this house to sell. I'm moving on to the next one. Oh, wow. So, and I'm speaking from context of listing agent and buyer's agent. I'm really 50-50, but that is a big one that doesn't happen a lot, but I've seen it happen and those listings tend to sit. Sometimes I'll go back and check them, try to schedule again, uncommunicative agents, or sometimes having to go through hoops of getting a hold of agent. They only listed their office number on the listing. Someone's in the office, they're going to get, they're going to call you back. The message never gets through. It can't get, you can't schedule on showing time because it's not set up. So things like that are huge barriers to even getting people through the door to look at your listing.
Do you find that one is worse than the other, like buying versus selling, buyers versus sellers? Just
as
one
far as
typical,
working with them?
Well, time-wise, like communication-wise, like, like with a seller or, with a buyer, you're like, all right, let's look at this home, or whatever. But, with a seller, it's like, what are we waiting for? What's going on? Help me understand, like, why is this not going? Is there one that is more trickier as far as communication goes, do you think?
Communication with other agents?
The agents themselves, yeah.
Really, it can be a little more difficult on the buy side because you're the one that's calling out needing something, right?
Yeah.
And to me, being the listing agent, I feel I'm very communicative. So usually if someone's interested in my listing and I'm on the listing side, we're talking, I'm easy to get a hold of. That's easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the buying side, when we're constantly having to get a hold of people, that can be.
Yeah. Like, I want this house.
Yeah.
Help me out here. I want to buy your house. Yeah.
And most agents around here, a lot of us know each other too. And a lot of people are very easy to work with, but sometimes you'll get out of town agents or really big offices that want all calls to filter through the office. Well, that on the buying agent side, that can be frustrating.
Yeah. Okay. So, number 5, we'll say communication.
Yes.
Number 4.
I'm going to say location on this one.
Okay.
Location's a big deal, especially right now. I feel like the market is, I'll say hit or miss because you'll see listings right now still going pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Getting good action. A lot of others, though, not. When you look at days on market and you look at sales are down, listings are up. Overall, the market's kind of been, I don't want to say a down period, but it's tricky right now. So I feel like location can be a big one that can hurt you. If you're not in a desirable school district, if you're in a location with, a tough tax rate, taxes are bad. If you've got a beautiful home on a funky street that the homes don't match or things aren't upkept or things like that, location can be really a kicker.
Yeah. So like getting people to the home because it looks beautiful is one thing, but once they get out there, they're very likely to, see some different things. Would you say that, is there anything kind of on the positive side that, maybe somebody can look for that location, potentially could enhance a listing?
Sure. Yeah. Desirable school districts, desirable streets. I know a lot of people don't like HOAs, but they really do help with maintaining, curb appeal.
Expectations.
Yes. trying to think of what else, of course I have lots of buyers looking at what's the tax rate,
Yeah.
what's nearby. Sometimes you have I don't want to say specific areas or point anybody out, but there are some places in Bell County where you can drive down a road and it's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
You might be looking at the lake. You might be looking at a nice neighborhood. You turn the corner and the next street is, full of maybe undesirable homes or homes that aren't well kept or things like that.
So communication, number 5, number 4, location, and number 3.
I would say overall curb appeal and condition. You want to drive up, and the worst thing is to see the photos, right? And y'all, Sold in a Snap does a really great job of making them look awesome. And the worst thing is having an awesome photo and you're so excited to go see it, and then you pull in with your buyer and it's like, oh, this isn't what I thought, or the condition looks a little like I've got a lot of work ahead of me, or something like that. So curb appeal and condition is huge too.
And I mean, I would say like condition, curb appeal, it says a lot about how the home was kept prior. Would you agree with that?
Yep. You could have the same 2 homes sitting side by side, and if one is not kept well, and the other is, it can make it look like a completely different listing. As far as, landscaping, really just routine maintenance inside the home is huge too. Not everybody wants to come in and have to start over on, all those kind of maintenance things we should be keeping up with in our homes.
Yeah. So speaking to the selling agents out there right now, and wanting to be intentional with what that looks like, what would your advice be to, again, let's say you're in selling season with this particular house and like we've been trying to push it. What would be some good advice that you would give to those selling agents to make sure that every time somebody comes up, that house looks desirable?
So I would say, what I do with a lot of my listings is, when we come in and visit, we're talking about right off the top, maintenance things. When was the last time your HVAC was maintenance? How old is your roof? How old is your hot water heater? That kind of stuff. If there's stuff I'm seeing that's automatically deficient, doesn't take a lot of time or costs a lot of money to like get back up to speed, we do that. Making sure your home is clean, get a professional clean, definitely decreasing clutter. Sometimes staging helps a lot on vacant homes, landscaping.
Sure.
There's just a laundry
You
list.
can't just neglect the home because people are going to notice.
Yeah. But granted, there's all kinds of listings, right? There's beautiful homes, mid-range homes that people are actively living in, that we're selling. That's listing A. There's also listings that, hey, my mother just died. This home is from the 60s. I don't want to do a single thing to it. I just need you to sell it.
Yeah.
So all different kind of scenarios come up, but some people don't want to put the time and money into getting the listing looking as it should. Others do have the time and the means to do that. And so it definitely will depend on the client too, how we approach that. But you want people to walk in, you want it to smell good, you want it to feel fresh, you want it to look light. You don't want to see dog hair all over the floor. I definitely have a good list of things we go through.
Probably worthwhile to take a visit to those homes before like people are coming to take a look at them,
One other thing too on listings, I list a lot of vacant listings, and it's really easy to, for it to just be sitting there on the market and no one's checking on it. And people are, sellers are out of town or whatever. People are coming in and viewing it. And if you're not checking on that, you might have no idea what's going on. And it's even just happened to me. I have a vacant listing in Temple. Miscommunication, I thought seller was going by checking on the yard. He thought I was going by checking on the yard. We have a showing and the grass is up to someone's knees. And I was like, oh, well, you're going to have to fix that. So that needs to be a talking point too with your seller of a vacant home is if they're not around, they're not in town, they don't have someone, come in to maintain the yard. That's a biggie because that's a huge, just on the drive by that can turn somebody off immediately when someone's not taking care of of the home. So making sure the yard is continuing to be mowed, walking through, sweeping up, wiping off counters as dust accumulates over time, as homes are sitting on the market longer, making sure those Texas roaches aren't crawling through the kitchen, making sure someone didn't go to the restroom and leave a mess and et cetera, et cetera. So going through and checking up on your vacant listings is also super important.
How often do you think that you should do that? Is that like a once a week thing? Is that a, hey, every couple days I should check it? Like maybe schedule a lawn, company to come out every week, and
Sure.
like what's my timeline on these things?
I think part of it depends on your traffic. Skipping ahead to the yard, I just spoke with my seller and said, hey, this guy wants to come mow this yard every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
May not need it. He's trying to keep in business, right? The yard guy is.
Sure.
My guy said no, every 3 weeks. So I think depending on the weather too. I mean, right now it's summer. It's been raining. Grass is growing like crazy. Every 3 weeks I have a yard guy out there. As far as walking through the home to check on things, if your traffic's been really high, you're having a few showings a week. It's been muddy. People are traipsing mud through the house, maybe a little more frequently. This listing I had at first, the same one we've been talking about, at first it was listed a little high. Traffic was really low. I would check on it every week and wasn't much going on. So I think if you're not having a lot of traffic, you can skip by with a little less, but if you're having more traffic, weather has been questionable, as far as mud and rain, I think it's important to go by a little more often.
Yeah, that makes sense. And maybe if it's a vacant home, have some of those things there, like, hey, let's keep a mop
Exactly.
handy.
I have
Let's
definitely
keep
dropped off, a mop, a broom, dust wipes, and left them at a house before.
Yeah.
For sure.
Awesome.
Very helpful. Okay, one other thing that can really, really kill a listing on the listing agent side is limited showing availability. When you have a seller that says, I only want the home shown Monday through Thursday after 5 p.m., or I only want the home shown on the weekends.
Yeah.
Or I sleep during the day. I really can only do, Friday and Saturday mornings or whatever the situation may be. That can really kill it, especially in a market where, right now there's a lot of supply and a lot less demand. So if people are having a hard time getting in, it's a lot easier just to flake your listing off because there's a lot more things to go look at that are a lot more available to look at, So I speak with my sellers a lot about show the home as much as you can.
Yeah.
I know some people don't have the opportunity, or, there's lots of people have lots of different lives and lots of different situations, but I always recommend getting it shown as much as you can. Even if I have to come help grab an animal or, sweep up before someone gets there, or, whatever we have to do. Especially in the market right now, I don't feel like it doesn't do you any good to skip a showing, So
you want everybody in that house.
Everyone that wants to come through the door, we got to get them through the door.
Yeah. So, on that point, I mean, it really is a team effort at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you need them to be, receive. I'm going to say that again. So to that point, like, you need to be a team at this point, right? Like, you need their flexibility. Like, I need to get in the home. They need to get in the home.
Yep.
We need to push this. And also, I assume that also means that would affect the timeline and kind of space that we need to work within. Now we're ready to go into number two.
Okay. Second to last thing I want to make note of is poor online presentation / poor photos.
Yeah.
That's a killer too, because right now, especially with the internet and the online shopping and so many people moving in and out of state, the first time they're going to see your listing is 99.9% of the time on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So poor online presentation can kill it. Just the other day, I was talking to an agent and, didn't want to be rude, but he had $1 million listing that he put up with cell phone pictures. And that's
Why?
just not, it's not going to do it. And he said, nice pictures to come later. It had been on the market 49 days. I'm like, it's time. So I think online presentation is everything, even on and just a tip for, newcomers coming, even on a little listing that you don't feel like you're going to get paid a lot on. It does kind of stink to put out. We, as listing agents, we're putting out money from the top, right? Before we ever make a dime, we're paying for pictures, but it's worth it. It's worth it to have those sharp pictures done by a professional. Mm-hmm. I've even seen very seasoned agents that maybe not, be as into internet trends and online activity that are posting cell phone pictures, and you see them in the bathroom mirror taking the picture, and it just puts it just is not a good look. And I think good listing descriptions are important. I also see some folks putting up 2 or 3 sentences in their listing description. As a seller, if I, hired an agent to really promote my house, I needed to get it sold. I mean, whether quickly or not, I needed to get it sold.
Yeah.
And they listed, and I look at it, and the listing description says, great home in Belton, come by and take a look, 1/2 acre lot. And that's it.
Like,
it leaves a little to the imagination. So I think a good, strong listing description. I think there's a balance there. Some people write a novel, some people pop it into chat, ask Chat GPT to do it, which I'm not there yet, but, and you can tell it's not an authentic voice. I think that is a killer too. A low effort attempt, in my opinion. So I think listing descriptions, and I think too, filling in as much information as you can about the listing.
Yeah. That's
a pet peeve of mine, as you go and you look at all the fields, and they've just filled in the very minimum amount of things you have to fill in to get it submitted. I just think more information is better. And I think really good listing photos are important.
Well, and I mean, on top of what you were saying, I mean, you're building a portfolio for yourself, so, you have, let's say this listing, I got these great pictures, and this listing I went cell phone. And then if people are shopping you as a realtor, they're going to see that, but if you have like, hey, I was so intentional with every listing that I had. If anybody looks at anything that I've done, they know that I'm all in, your descriptions, your pictures, the effort that you take, so
consistency.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Consistency is very important. The other funny thing is some sellers will come to me too and say, I have all these really great pictures from the last listing. I loved them so much. Can we use them? So that kind of shatters their heart, because I'm like, no, we can't use those. Or they'll say, my daughter just took these really great cell phone pictures, at sunset, and they're just beautiful. And I just would love if you'd use those. And it's like, sometimes I try to accommodate, but I just think a really nice, fresh, clean, consistent set of pictures is the way to go. So sometimes we do have to have those hard conversations and tell people, you hired me, and I want you to trust me that this is, the best route we need to take. So
it's funny, because when I originally was looking to come into real estate photography, I had taken pictures of my own home prior to doing this, and I look at them now, and they were garbage. Like, I did not know what I was doing, and so it, like, I mean, they're pretty, sure, do they show rooms? Kind of, but I think there's something to say about somebody who knows how to showcase a house, a home, and though there's some great, cell phone photographers out there and some other stuff, I think it really does, kind of stand the true test when you have somebody, that comes in that's a professional that knows what they're doing. So, okay. Drum roll. We're going into number one, the number one thing that we need to consider. Go.
I feel like everyone knows what this is, and it's price.
Yeah, sure.
And I wanted to talk about it from the top because it's the most important thing, but also, even though all these other things we just talked about can, negatively affect whether your listing is selling or not, ultimately you can price adjust for all of these things.
Sure.
And so that is the price is a killer. And I tell people all the time, sold comps are the only thing that we need to be basing price off of. Local sold comps, same kind of age, same kind of property, same kind of, size of acreage, et cetera, et cetera. All these factors we look at to price a home. And we've still got sellers that are, everyone's hung up on 2021. And a lot of people haven't come back down to reality of, it's not going to sell at that, and then as a listing agent, we struggle with obviously telling our true story of this is what your home is valued at based on sold comps. We can list it where you want it to, where you want to list it, but just do not expect the activity. You're not going to get the activity you're hoping for. Yeah. So we're crushing a lot of dreams lately, because anyone that's purchased in the last 3 to 5 years, a lot of people are upside down in their homes right now. I've dealt with it this entire 2026 and I've got some on the market now, priced a little too high because sellers can't get out unless they pay to get out. If we drop the price, they're paying to get out. And then I've had others say, okay, we're just not going to list yet. We're going to wait and see if the market kind of shifts, prices kind of shift, et cetera. Yeah. So,
when do I know that it's time or we need to wait? I guess, maybe it's going to tell its own tale if
So that's tough. That's tough. And with people I talk to, we check back in. I'm checking back in with them in a couple months. I'm checking back in with them every couple weeks, whatever we kind of decide, depending on their urgency or their family's needs or when they have to move, et cetera. But I feel like a good agent is going to put them on their list at the top of mind, and they're going to, keep in contact with them and say, hey, I'm going to keep you up to date with how the market's moving. If homes are beginning to move quicker in your area, you'll be hearing from me. Have them check in when they have questions. It's kind of a fluid thing in my mind, but I feel like there is no magic ball of when it's time. You're just, as agents, we're watching the market. We're watching homes around them, watching home in their price ranges to see, are we noticing an uptick in movement? Are we noticing days on market kind of going down? Homes selling quicker. And then I tell people too, it doesn't hurt to put it out there. Yeah. And if it's not the right time, we're getting consistent offers that we don't like in a kind of consistent price range. That's the market telling you that, probably where you need to be priced. And if that doesn't align with your financial needs, then maybe now's not the time.
I've heard a lot of people recently, a lot of realtors, talk about this, and they've talked about how clients are so hesitant to drop the cost, and I know some of it is like, well, we just, we don't have an option because we are upside down. We have to sell it for what we're asking. But what do you tell somebody who's like, just so like hard nosed, like, I don't care. I think I can get $500,000 on this $300,000 house. Like, what do you tell them? What is your advice there?
Oh, that's
like, is it all comps? Like, well, this is what the other places have been going for. Like, is it just education? Like, help them understand?
It's just a lot of it's education, showing them the numbers over and over. Every week I'll come in with, the Zillow saves and the Zillow views, the MLS views, how many agents have seen this and sent it to clients. If those numbers are low, consistently low after the first, second, third week, and you're not seeing them pretty steadily rise, I show, that's just a concrete thing that I can show a seller with no emotion of mine into it. These are the numbers. These aren't where I like to see them. Yeah. This ain't tracking. You know what I mean? And I feel like the older that I get and the longer I'm in this business too, used to, I would never turn a client down. I'll do anything. I'll jump through hoops. Well, now sometimes you just realize sometimes people aren't your clients. Yeah. And it's not the right time, and that's not the client for you. And so sometimes we got to move on. I have a listing. I had a listing in Holland that I had to terminate. I had a seller, probably like a $750,000 to $800,000 farm and ranch property. Yeah. She wanted to list at $900,000. I'm like, okay, I know we're going to have to drop the price. I said, okay, if you're understanding that, I'll list it at this. Give it a few weeks and we're going to need to make an adjustment. Sure. Because in my head, we're not going to get a showing at this price. Yeah. I wake up one morning, let's list it at $1 million. Okay. I wake up another morning, let's list it at 1.2. I said, this isn't the listing for me. This isn't the listing for me. I'm going to pay $1,000, probably not, but close to $1,000, $800 by the time I, get a full photography package. I do the drone with the lot lines. I do the video. All the marketing. I pay for some Facebook ads. I'm going to be already in, and this thing isn't going to get showing. And I'm slammed on the back end. This isn't a listing for me. So now it's listed for sell by owner for even higher than the last price that she told me. So, and that was even after lots of conversation, lots of comps, you can't, I don't want to say you can't fix people, but sometimes you can't fix people's mindset or even though they hired me as a professional, there's lots of background noise they're hearing from family and friends and neighbors. And sometimes you just can't compete with that. Yeah. So that just wasn't a listing for me, but, a lot of education and a lot of consistent check-ins and updates and looking at data.
Well, I think this is a lot to go into trust, they're trusting you with that knowledge, but also like you have to help them understand that like, I want to sell your house, but
help me help you.
Like you've had no viewings, like the social media like hits on here is next to nothing. And there's a reason for that. And maybe it's because of it's priced too high, or maybe it's because we haven't marketed it how we should have, and so maybe there's some things that we can tweak on that. So I hear what you're saying in here, and I think there's something to say about, the access of information these days, right? To some information. So for example, a lot of people you mentioned earlier, maybe using ChatGPT for their listings, but probably some of the sellers are using ChatGPT to understand maybe how much their home is worth, and maybe they think they know something more than you do. What would you say to that? Like, what is there some danger in that? Is there some kind of misleading stuff that's happening in those spaces?
Yes, that one gets to me because I mean the only true source of information is the multiple listing service, MLS. That's the only place that you can access, sold data. That's it. I mean, the estimates are not accurate. I've seen them be pretty close, but they're not accurate all the time. Definitely not with unique properties. I list a lot of unique properties that don't just sit in a neighborhood with a lot of sold comps. And so you really have to, the human in us has to take lots of data from different places, maybe even pieces of these home comps and these location comps and these land comps, and kind of marry them to get the picture that we need to present to our seller. And a Zestimate can't do that, and neither can ChatGPT. I know you can kind of lead ChatGPT to, I don't dig into that super often. I try to stay away from it, but you can kind of guide it to tell you kind of what you want to hear. And so I feel like it could be telling, buyer and seller a different story about the same house. And so the only way to really get, the right price on your home or close to the right price on your home is through a human. Trust your agent, trust the data that we're looking at. And if you don't trust us, order an appraisal. I mean, I've been telling sellers that a lot lately because I have had number one, sales are down. Therefore, the comps I'm able to look at are down, especially on a unique farm and ranch property. I sell a lot in Salado, Holland, Belton, and I may have a unique home with a barn on 15 acres, and a comp doesn't exist for that sometimes. Right. And so there's no way ChatGPT can whip up a value for that. Because I can barely whip up a value for that. I have to do a lot of melding numbers and ideas and just trusting my gut and, looking at maybe a comp for that home and then a comp for the land. And then what would appraiser put a value, what value would an appraiser put on that barn? Sure. And then I'm marrying these numbers to kind of get my price. Yeah. And so,
an appraiser would be able to kind of solidify those numbers 100%. For you.
Yes. Appraiser, it's a cheap enough service. It's a quick enough service. I can put my 2 cents out there. We get an appraisal. We have a hard copy of a professional appraisal done that tells us exactly what it's worth to the dollar. And then we can disclose that to buyers. Yeah. The flip side of that is sometimes sellers don't want to know. Sure. If it's lower than they hoped and we have to disclose that we have an appraisal and that price, then our listing price needs to reflect what that appraisal says, if not be a little lower. In this market.
If you get an appraisal before and you go under contract, do you have to do another appraisal? Like, is that part of the deal as well?
Yes. I just had this question with the seller I have in Holland right now. She's there. This couple's going through a divorce, needing to do an appraisal on their home to decide, who gets what percent of what and how much the home's worth. Right. And she asked me the same question. If I buy an appraisal right now, do we have to have another one, once we get a contract? And the answer is yes. Okay. That lender, whoever's lending for the purchaser, if it's not a cash deal, whoever's lending for the purchaser is going to want a non-biased appraisal to be done. Sure. So that will be another appraisal to be done, paid by the buyer.
Okay. So where the rubber meets the road, when do you think would be the best time for me to get an appraisal? Would you say like a pre-appraisal before you list it? Mm-hmm. Would you say it's if the agent and the client kind of disagree on that and you offer that, would you say that's the best time to say, why don't we do this? Let's get an appraiser, and then the guesswork will be out of it.
Sure. I mean, a lot of sellers, just off the top, a lot of sellers don't want to do an appraisal, right? That's $600-$700 out of their pocket. Yeah. To me, that's time is money. So the longer you're on market at the wrong price, I mean, it would have been a lot easier just to, cut that $600 check and be done. I do think at the beginning of your listing, if there are not a lot of solid comps, I'm going to say is when it's a good time. Yeah. I mean, if I've got a home in a neighborhood, 3 Creeks and Belton, if I have a home in that neighborhood and there are 15 sold comps just like mine, I don't really need an appraisal. Right. I'm confident that this is the price. And if the seller still cannot understand that after looking at, the data, then sure, we could still get one. But if it's my unique properties, it's my farm and ranch properties, it's my older homes, it's mobile homes, it's things that you can't find a lot of comps on, those are the ones that I'm highly recommending people to get an appraisal even before we list.
Yeah.
just to avoid the price fluctuations or any big price fluctuations. If you have that price from the get-go, I'm even recommending, listing just right below. And that's a marketing strategy too. Hey, I have this appraisal. It's appraised at 600,000. We're listed at 575.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an attractive, marketing strategy.
Wow. Well, Lauren, we went over 5 things today. You talked about communication and of course the big one, price. So before we wrap, I do want to give you the last word, any tips or tricks or anything that you can give our audience before we sign off today.
Yeah, I just think it's really important right now, and really in any market, after all these things we've talked about, I mean, the kicker is just communication. If you're a new agent, make sure you're communicating, make sure you're being honest with your clients, even if it hurts. Make sure if you can't answer the phone, you're texting them saying, hey, I will call you back. Even if you're busy, your client needs to be your number one, they need to feel like they're your number one priority.
Yeah.
And for buyers and sellers, I mean, make sure you're working with someone that you trust. Who you work with matters. There's lots of trust in this game. I mean, I have clients that don't even want to see the comps. They know me and they want to know what I have to say, and that's the end of the game. And so you want to attract clients that trust you and know you're going to put your best foot forward for their listing.
Lauren, thanks again so much. Why don't you tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you, connect, maybe get their property?
Yeah. I'm with Syntex Home and Ranch Team with Anchor Realty. I'm on Facebook and Instagram with, at Lauren Mynarcik, my name. You can also search Syntex Home and Ranch Team. We have a website and I'm in all the places.
Awesome. Well, we'll put all your info in the show notes below so that we can get you in touch with them. So, awesome. All right. Before we sign off today, I do want to say today's tip of the week, which is if a home isn't selling, don't automatically blame the market. Start by evaluating 5 key factors: pricing, online presentation, property condition, location, influences, and communication. The faster you identify the real issue, the faster you can adjust your strategy and get the home sold. Before we sign off, we also want to thank our sponsor for today's episode, which is The Doors of Waco. Step into the story of Waco, one door at a time. The Doors of Waco is a beautifully crafted coffee table book featuring stunning photography and the hidden character behind some of Waco's most iconic entrances. Whether displayed in your home, office, Airbnb, or gifted to a client, it's a meaningful way to showcase a love for Waco. It also makes a perfect closing gift for realtors looking to give something local, memorable, and lasting. Open the door to your copy today at thedoorsofwaco.com. Thanks again, everybody, for being on, and we'll see you on the next one.
And that's today's pour. Thanks for spilling the real tea with us. Don't forget to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next hot pour of real estate talk. And remember, this is just the tea, not legal, real estate, or financial advice.